Shadows of Hollywood. I never truly left this place. My body might have vanished long ago, carried away under flashing lights and muffled voices, but some part of me remained. It lingered in the cracks of the sidewalks, in the heavy air that clings to Hollywood Boulevard, in the faint perfume that mixes with gasoline and sweat. I am still here, wandering among the neon and shadows, watching the city devour dream after dream. It feels different now. Time doesn't flow for me anymore. It hangs in the air like dust caught in a shaft of light. The nights stretch endlessly, yet the days blur past in an instant. What remains sharp, sharper than anything I ever felt while alive, are the sensations. The smell of hot pavement cooling under night air, the sticky sweetness of spilled drinks on the sidewalk, the faint copper tang of blood that no one else seems to notice. I breathe them in, though I no longer have lungs, and they cling to me like the shadows cling to the buildings. Hollywood was supposed to be a place of light. That's what they told me. Bright marquees, glowing stars embedded in the pavement, the promise of eternity in celluloid. But the lights are lies. They burn too hot, strip color away, bleach faces into hollow masks. It's in the darkness where truth waits, and I am bound to that darkness. At first, I tried to stay near the crowds. Tourists wandering with cameras, their laughter brittle and hollow, performers in costumes posing for coins. I followed them, hoping their noise might drown out the silence inside me. But the longer I drifted among them, the more I realized how little separated me from them. Their eyes, though alive, often looked empty. They walked the boulevard like sleepwalkers, their shadows trailing behind too long, too sharp. Sometimes I wondered if they felt me brush against them. Some would shiver suddenly, glance around as if catching a trace of perfume too old to exist, then hurry on. The nights grew heavier. I found myself drawn away from the noise, up into the hills where the houses perch above the city like watchful eyes. Up there, the air tastes different, thinner, drier, laced with the faint smoke of forgotten fireplaces. The silence hums, broken only by the distant throb of music carried on the wind. But even that quiet never lasts. In the hush of the hills, I hear other sounds. The low creak of floorboards inside empty houses, the faint ripple of curtains brushing glass though the windows are closed. One house called to me more than the others. It sat half hidden behind an iron gate, paint flaking from its walls, its roof sagging under the weight of years. No one lived there, not really, though sometimes lights would flicker on for no reason. Curtains would twitch, revealing only the brief shimmer of movement behind them. The smell around it was unmistakable, damp wood, mildew, and something else, something sweeter, like perfume left too long in the heat. It was the same scent that clung to me. I lingered there often, hovering by the gate, watching the house breathe. Its shadows stretched across the yard in ways that defied the angle of the street lamps. I would catch glimpses of faces in the windows, pale, wide-eyed, framed by curls of hair that belonged to another era. They were gone by the time I looked again, but I knew they were still there, watching me as I watched them. Eventually, I crossed the threshold. The gate swung open with a groan that reverberated through me, though no living ear would have heard it. The yard smelled of earth gone sour, the ground soft as though it had been turned too often. I drifted to the porch, and the boards sagged beneath me, releasing a stale breath of rot. The front door loomed tall and silent, locked, but the house didn't need me to enter. Its walls already pressed against me, its windows already reflected my hollow face. Inside, the air was heavier, thicker than outside. Dust floated like ash, settling on velvet curtains and broken frames. I moved through the rooms, tracing the edges of furniture that seemed arranged for a performance long ended. Chairs circled a coffee table, cups still resting on its surface, their rims stained as if used moments before. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, curling like dead skin, and beneath it the plaster bled dark with moisture. Every step deeper into the house made the silence louder. I wasn't alone. I knew that immediately. The others here did not hide. They whispered in the static that crawled through the walls, their laughter rising like faint radio waves. They brushed past me in the hall, their forms little more than streaks of lightless motion. In the mirrors, I saw them clearly, faces distorted, eyes wide, mouths half open in silent screams. Some watched me with pity, others with hunger. I should have left, but there was nowhere else for me to go. The house became a refuge, a prison, a stage where the same performance repeated endlessly. Nights blurred into one another as shadows lengthened, and I began to understand. This was not just a house. It was a collection of remains. Every dream devoured by Hollywood, every body discarded once the lights moved on, had left an echo. Those echoes gathered here, bound together by perfume, by laughter, by the promise of something more that never arrived. Now I wander both inside and outside. Sometimes I drift down to the boulevard, watch the tourists, the actors, the lost souls. Sometimes I return to the house, feel the walls pulse like a heart, hear the curtains sigh. The city shines too bright, and its shadows stretch too deep. I do not know how long I have been here. Time means nothing anymore. What I know is that the shadows of Hollywood are endless, and they have claimed me as their own. And when the lights finally dim, when the last tourist leaves and the streets fall silent, you will feel me too. The perfume, the static, the weight pressing against your chest. I am still here. I always will be. The silent victim. It is strange how silence has a sound of its own. It is never truly empty. There are textures in it, vibrations you feel more than hear. I know that silence better than anything else now. It presses against me in every room, every hallway, every moment I exist. It is the silence of disbelief, of voices that should have spoken but did not, of ears that listened but refused to hear. It is the silence I became. When I close what's left of my eyes, I remember the smell first. The way the night air hung thick in my room, the mixture of laundry detergent on my sheets, the faint sweetness of the lotion I used, and underneath it all, something sour, sharp, animal-like. The scent of sweat that wasn't mine, the scent of intrusion. The sound came next, a floorboard, whispering its complaint under weight that shouldn't have been there. It was faint, almost too faint to notice, but my heart recognized it before my mind did. That was when the air changed. It grew heavy, as though every particle in the room shifted, thickening, waiting. My body froze while my mind screamed, but silence held me. Silence pressed my throat closed, suffocating my breath. There are moments in life when time unravels, stretching itself until seconds become unbearable eternities. That night was one of those. I remember the way the curtains stirred though the window was shut, the way shadows thickened across the wall, spilling long fingers across my bed. I remember the texture of the blanket clutched in my fist, its fibers rough, scratching my palm as if to remind me that this was not a nightmare. This was real. The touch was sudden, a weight that crushed into me, foreign, merciless, cold. My skin crawled under hands that did not belong, the smell of sweat and metal filling my lungs until I thought I would choke. I wanted to scream, but the silence was louder. It wrapped around me, suffocating, telling me no sound would matter. Afterward, the silence remained. It clung to me, heavier than the act itself. I tried to speak of it. My lips formed words, my throat burned with truth, but every ear I turned to carried doubt. Their eyes shifted, uncomfortable, as if my words dirted the air. The silence I had felt that night now lived inside their stares. It told me to stop. It told me that my truth was a lie. The walls of my room never forgot. Nights after, when I tried to sleep, the air still tasted of him, bitter, oily, clinging to the corners. The sheets smelled of chemicals no amount of washing could erase. I would run my fingers across the fabric, feeling its fibers as though they hid the imprint of what had happened. The silence deepened, growing thicker with every breath. It became a presence, a shadow that sat at the edge of my bed, waiting for me to close my eyes. I began to notice the static. At first it was faint, like the hum of distant electricity. It grew louder at night, seeping from the walls, crackling like laughter just beyond hearing. Sometimes it rose into whispers, curling around my head, sinking into my ears. The voices never formed words I could understand, but I knew what they meant. They told me it didn't matter. They told me I was nothing but the silence I carried. The mirrors turned against me. In the bathroom, under the harsh flicker of the light, I would catch glimpses of myself that weren't mine. My reflection's eyes were wider, hollower, her skin pale and stretched thin. She looked back at me with pity at first, then with disgust, then with hunger. When I turned away, the afterimage of her face lingered, burned into my vision like a ghost of neon after staring too long at a sign. I stopped sleeping. Nights stretched into each other, endless corridors of silence broken only by phantom footsteps in the hall. The boards groaned under weight I could no longer see. The air carried that sour-sweet stench, perfume rotting into something metallic. My body ached, but it wasn't exhaustion. It was the memory of hands, the echo of weight. Every breath I took felt borrowed, stolen from a world that had already discarded me. I thought I could leave it behind. I packed what little I owned, carried it out into the world beyond those walls. But the silence followed. It lives in every streetlight that flickers, in every alley where the smell of garbage mixes with something sharper, something wrong. It hums in the spaces between conversations, crawls beneath the laughter of strangers. The silence has become me, and I cannot outrun myself. Sometimes, when I wander too close to places filled with life, I feel them notice. They do not see me, not truly, but they feel the air grow heavier, the shadows deepen, the static rise. A shiver runs through them, a flicker of unease, and they hurry on. They do not know that I follow, that I linger in their mirrors, that I breathe against their windows while they sleep. I do not mean to, but silence clings. It spreads. I am not sure anymore if I am alive, or if I have become something else entirely. My body still moves, still breathes, still walks the same streets. But the part of me that once spoke, once believed in being heard, has long since died. What remains is the silence, the endless, suffocating silence that no scream can break. I am the silent victim, the one who was not believed, the one who was swallowed by stillness. I linger here, in rooms that smell of sweat and rot, in streets where shadows stretch too long, in mirrors where faces do not belong. I am not gone. I am not free. I am only waiting, breathing silence into those who pass me by, until they feel it too. The weight, the stillness, the truth that no one will ever hear. And when they finally understand, when they lie awake in their own rooms and hear the creak of floorboards, when they taste metal in the air and feel shadows crawl across their skin, they will know. They will know me,